Welcome to the Legacy Builders podcast, where we uncover the human stories behind Africa's most powerful business empires. In each episode, we push past Forbes lists and press clippings to explore how visionary leaders built their fortunes. Our research covers aspects of their personal trials and triumphs, from into their sleepless nights, risky bets, and relentless discipline to their victories. Because behind every billion-dollar valuation is a story of resilience and strategy forged long before the spotlight found them. This season, we're profiling Africa's billionaires, the empire builders and quiet disruptors who transformed oil, telecoms, banking, and culture across the continent. Today, we begin with one of the most private yet influential figures in African business, Chief Michael Adenuga Jr. From driving a taxi in Buffalo, New York, to building Globacom and Conoil, two of Nigeria's largest companies, Adenuga's journey is a masterclass in vision, timing, and tenacity. It's not just about the billions he amassed, it's about how he built them, what fueled his ambition, and the lessons his story leaves behind. The Buffalo taxi driver who built an empire. In life, you must always have a backup to a backup. That's Mike Adenuga, and that single sentence explains everything. The taxi he drove through Buffalo's freezing winters while studying in America, the day job he kept while running 3 side hustles simultaneously, the way he built an oil empire, then a telecom revolution, then systematically diversified into banking, construction, real estate, and insurance. A backup to a backup. Most people plan for failure once, Adenuga plans for it twice, and that's why today, at 71 years old, this man you've probably never heard of controls a $6.8 billion empire spanning 5 African countries. He's the chairman of Globacom, the company that revolutionized mobile phones across West Africa. He owns Conoil, the first indigenous Nigerian company to strike commercial oil. And he did it all starting from absolutely nothing. No inheritance, no political family, no venture capital, just a scholarship, a taxi, and an absolutely pathological refusal to quit. This is his story, the foundation and humble beginnings. On April 29, 1953, Ibadan, Nigeria, Michael Adenuga Jr. is born to a schoolteacher father and a businesswoman mother with minor royal connections. It's a modest beginning, comfortable enough, but nowhere near wealth. His mother's business dealings plant a seed. He watches her negotiate, watches her hustle, but it's education that becomes his ticket out. He's smart, really smart, earns a scholarship to study in America, and in the mid-1970s, he lands at Northwestern Oklahoma State University to study business administration. Now, here's where most scholarship kids would just focus on their studies, maybe get a part-time job at the campus bookstore. Not Adenuga. The scholarship covers tuition, but living expenses in America, that's a different beast entirely. So he drives a taxi in Buffalo, New York. And I want you to really picture this. Buffalo in the 1970s. The winters are brutal. Temperatures regularly drop below zero. The city is in economic decline. And here's this young Nigerian man navigating frozen streets, picking up strangers at 2 a.m., dealing with drunks and difficult passengers, all while maintaining a full course load. He could have complained, could have just scraped by. Instead, he absorbed everything. Years later, when asked about that period, Adenuga says it taught him 3 things: resilience, negotiation under pressure, and a relentless work ethic. Listen to that, not "it was hard" or "I struggled." He extracted lessons. He turned suffering into education. This is the pattern you'll see repeated throughout his entire life. He completes his undergraduate degree, then goes further, gets his MBA from Pace University in New York, 2 degrees, driving a taxi the whole time. And then in his mid-20s, he returns to Nigeria. Now, here's what's fascinating. He doesn't immediately start a business. He gets a regular job, a 9 to 5, because he needs stability. He needs to pay rent, avoid problems with his landlord, keep the lights on. But he also starts side hustles, not 1, 3. During the day, he's the responsible employee. Nights and weekends, he's a merchant, selling removable car stereos, luxury items in 1970s Nigeria, selling soft drinks. And here's the interesting one: selling high-end lace fabric. The really expensive stuff that Nigeria's elite buy for special occasions. He's not just selling, he's doing everything: the logistics, the marketing, the sales, the delivery, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The day job provides security, the side hustles build capital, and in 1979, at just 26 years old, he becomes a millionaire, his first million. Now, watch what he does next. This is important. He doesn't buy a mansion, doesn't buy luxury cars, doesn't celebrate and rest on his laurels. He immediately reinvests every single penny, scales up, expands into general merchandise, construction materials, auto accessories. He's operating with a level of capital discipline that most people never develop. The money isn't for consumption. The money is a tool, a weapon, capital to deploy into the next opportunity. This is why they call him the first 9 to 5er to become a billionaire, because that seed money wasn't inherited. It wasn't political connections. It was steady employment plus relentless entrepreneurial hustle. That combination funded everything that came after: the pivot from 1 million naira to $100 million deal. Late 1980s. Nigeria's oil industry is dominated by two groups: the state-owned Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and massive multinational companies like Shell, Chevron, and ExxonMobil. Indigenous Nigerians, they're shut out almost entirely. Then the government changes the policy. They open up exploration licenses to private Nigerian companies. Most people look at this and think, interesting. Adenuga looks at this and bets everything. He founds Consolidated Oil, Conoil, and he doesn't just apply for a license. He invests over $100 million into exploration. $100 million. Remember, just a decade ago, he was driving a taxi in Buffalo. Now he's betting 9 figures on finding oil. This is an absolutely massive gamble. Nigeria's business environment is volatile, corruption is rampant, political winds shift constantly. The chance of actually striking commercially viable oil? Slim. But in 1991, they hit it, commercial quantities. Conoil becomes the first indigenous Nigerian company to achieve commercial oil production. Not the first to get a license, the first to actually produce oil that matters. That one bet, that one massive risk, creates a company that today pumps out tens of thousands of barrels daily. It's the foundation of everything else. But Adenuga isn't done, not even close. The revolution. In the late 1990s, Nigeria has maybe 400,000 mobile phone lines in the entire country. The population is over 100 million people. Mobile phones are luxury items. The existing telecoms charge astronomical rates and they bill by the minute. You know what that means? You call someone, the conversation lasts 61 seconds. You pay for 2 full minutes. Adenuga sees the inefficiency, sees the pain point, and sees the opportunity. If he can crash the prices, improve the service, make it fair, he can revolutionize communication across Nigeria. So in 1999, he bids for a GSM license and he wins. He pays $20 million as a deposit, prepares to launch. This is it. This is going to be massive. Then the government revokes his license, just revokes it, keeps his $20 million. For a second, let's pause and imagine $20 million gone. Political interference, bureaucratic chaos, the kind of thing that happens in emerging markets when you threaten established interests. For most people, this would be the end. You lose $20 million to what appears to be outright political theft. You walk away. You cut your losses. You protect what you have left. Adenuga does not walk away. He waits for 4 years. Think about what that means. For 4 years, he keeps the dream alive, keeps the team together, keeps the ambition burning, doesn't give up, doesn't get bitter. He just waits for the next opportunity. New license auction, he's back. This time, he gets the license, and in 2003, he launches Globacom. Glow. And he immediately starts a war. First move, he decides to slash the price of SIM cards. This move makes mobile access instantly affordable for millions of Nigerians who couldn't touch it before. His second move, and this is the killer, per second billing. Per second billing. I guess it sounds familiar. Yes, it is. You talk for 61 seconds, you pay for 61 seconds, not a penny more. It sounds simple. But in 2003, this was revolutionary. Every other telco was billing by the minute. It was the entire business model, and Adenuga just blew it up. The competition had no choice. They had to match him. They had to offer per second billing. They had to drop their prices. And that move, that one strategic decision, catalyzed the entire mobile boom in Nigeria. Before Glo, maybe there were around 400,000 mobile lines. Today, there are over 200 million connections. Glo now serves over 60 million subscribers across Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire. That disruption, that willingness to lose $20 million and come back swinging 4 years later, that created one of Africa's largest telecom companies. But building an empire this big in Nigeria comes with a price. The storms, big man, big trouble. Mike Adenuga is detained by Nigerian authorities on money laundering allegations on July 2006. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over money laundering allegations linked to his companies, Globacom Equatorial Trust Bank, ETB, and Corn Oil. Now, many sources suggest this was politically motivated. When you control essential national resources, oil, telecommunications, you inherently create friction. You threaten people, you disrupt established power structures. So how does he handle it? He is later released on bail on July 11th, 2006, and subsequently left Nigeria. He just leaves Nigeria entirely and relocates to London, where he waits in the shadows. And in 2010, he is granted a pardon by President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua's administration and returns. This is masterful crisis management. He doesn't fight publicly, doesn't create a spectacle, doesn't try to win a battle that can't be won through confrontation. He just steps back, plays the long game, waits for the political situation to shift, but the turbulence doesn't end there. Financial challenges. Conoil faces roughly $140 million in unpaid debts to foreign firms. Lawsuits start flying, public pressure, financial stress. And here's the paradox. During this exact period, Forbes increases his net worth estimate by $5 billion. How does that work? How are you facing $140 million in lawsuits while your net worth jumps by billions? It's the power of the underlying assets, the oil reserves under Conoil's control, the 60 million subscribers on Glo's network. The fundamental value of what he built remained incredibly strong, even as operational issues created noise. His response: stay quiet, keep his head down, which he prefers anyway, resolve the disputes through business channels, let the core assets continue growing, and they did. The empire. Today, Adenuga's holdings span nearly every critical sector of Nigeria's economy. Oil and gas through Conoil, telecommunications through Globacom, but then it keeps going. Major stakes in banking, Stanbic IBTC Holdings, Equatorial Trust Bank, real estate through Cobblestone Properties, construction, significant holdings in Julius Berger, one of Nigeria's largest construction firms, energy, insurance. It's not random diversification, it's strategic. When you need to build thousands of cell towers for Glo, having influence in construction companies helps. When you need financing for massive infrastructure projects, having stakes in banks helps. When you're drilling for oil, having energy sector connections helps. Everything feeds back into everything else. It's a web of mutually reinforcing businesses. And here's what's remarkable. Despite this level of success, despite being worth nearly $7 billion, Adenuga remains intensely private. He doesn't do parties, doesn't seek the spotlight, rarely gives interviews. He's received Nigeria's second highest honor, the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, in 2012. Ghana gave him the Companion of the Star of Ghana in 2018. France awarded him the Legion of Honor the same year. These aren't small recognitions. These are nations acknowledging his economic impact across Africa and beyond. But if you ask people about him, they'll tell you about his discipline first. The machine. They call him part of the sleepless elite. 3 to 4 hours of sleep per night. That's it. He works late into the night, poring over reports, business matters, often with a cognac, the stories say. His management style is described as military-like. He demands punctuality, efficiency. If you're presenting to him, your slides better be concise and well-researched. No waffling, no filler. There's a quote attributed to him. Rule number 1, the chairman is always right. When he is wrong, refer to rule number 1. It's old school, centralized, almost authoritarian, and you might think that's outdated in modern business, but maybe it reflects something else, the kind of singular authority needed to push through massive, complex projects in high-risk environments. When you're drilling for oil in Nigeria, building telecom infrastructure across 5 countries, navigating political turbulence, maybe tight control minimizes ambiguity. Yet here's the fascinating contradiction. Despite this stern external image, Adenuga practices spiritual meditation, not for relaxation, for self-examination. He asks himself questions. Was I fair to him? Was she fair to me? If he concludes he wronged someone, he makes amends, maybe not publicly, but through action. There's an internal mechanism for self-correction, a desire to keep a clear conscience. That's not the behavior of a pure authoritarian. That's someone who understands that power requires responsibility, that success without fairness is hollow. The legacy, his Mike Adenuga Foundation does work in health, education, and entrepreneurship support, often very discreetly. But his most visible cultural impact came through music. Early 2000s, he started signing young Nigerian artists as Glow ambassadors, artists like Wizkid, Burna Boy, before they were global superstars. When they were just hungry, talented kids trying to break through, he sponsored their tours, gave them platforms, provided the kind of support that can make or break an early career. Today, those artists are international phenomena. African music is conquering global charts, and Adenuga's early backing was a crucial springboard. That soft power, cultural investment. He understood that building an empire isn't just about hard assets. It's about influence, about shaping the environment in which you operate, and his generosity often operates on a personal level too. When Peter Fragen, the legendary Nigerian football goalkeeper, fell on hard times, Globacom quietly renovated his home. No press conference, no publicity campaign, just helping someone out. This combination, the ruthless business discipline and the quiet personal generosity, creates a complex picture. He's not a saint, but he's not a pure capitalist robot either. He's a man who drove a taxi in Buffalo and decided that would never be his ceiling, who lost $20 million and came back 4 years later to build a revolution, who weathered detention, lawsuits, and political storms and kept building. The lessons. The young can walk faster, but the elder knows the road. So what do you take from Mike Adenuga's story? First, the foundation matters. He didn't jump straight to billions. He drove the taxi, he worked the day job, he ran the side hustles, he built capital systematically, reinvested ruthlessly, and only then made the massive bets. Second, resilience isn't just about bouncing back once. It's about bouncing back repeatedly. Revoked license, wait 4 years and try again. Detained, leave the country and wait for a pardon. Financial lawsuits, stay quiet and let the business fundamentals speak. Third, discipline is everything. 3 to 4 hours of sleep, daily meditation on fairness, presentations that must be concise. This isn't just about working hard. It's about operating like a machine, systematically, day after day after day. But here's the big one, the philosophy that explains everything. In life, you must always have a backup to a backup. A backup to a backup. That's why he kept the day job while building side hustles. That's why he diversified from oil into telecom. That's why he spread his empire across banking, construction, real estate, and insurance. Not because he was afraid, because he was prepared. Most people plan for success. Some people plan for failure. Adenuga plans for the failure of his failure plan. And that redundancy, that obsessive contingency planning, is what allowed him to survive and thrive through decades of volatility. So here's your action item, your homework. Look at your own life, your business, your career, your finances. Do you have a backup plan? Good. Now, do you have a backup to that backup? Because the people who build empires aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who plan so thoroughly for failure that it becomes almost impossible to take them down permanently. Mike Adenuga drove a taxi in Buffalo. Today, he controls a $6.8 billion empire. The taxi didn't define him. The response to the taxi defined him. And your current circumstances don't define you either. Your response does. That's the lesson. That's the legacy. A backup to a backup. This has been Legacy Builders. If you want to build something that lasts, study the people who already have. Their struggles are your roadmap. Their discipline is your template. Their resilience is your inheritance. Until next time.
We gather round our table, minor decline. Smooth kiss beneath our fingers, ticking steady time. Ideas start to shimmer on the candlelight. In business and in rhythm we align. Boardroom groove, feel the heartbeat slow. Piano speaks in colors, only visionaries know. Afro pulse is guiding every thought we own. In this funky space, our future's grown. Strategies unfolding like petals in the sun. We map our aspirations, every detail span. Conversations winding in syncopated flow. Melody of progress only we can know. Feel the tempo shift. Like the stresses lifting, finds its cadence, visions in the air. We close with quiet triumph, success lay bare.